Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars change. The tenacious dawn had just crossed the invisible line that marked the edge of human space. For the first time in 200 years, a human ship was flying into alien territory. "All systems normal, Captain," reported his second officer, Commander Kim Tae-woo. Kim was a careful man who always checked everything twice. His hand stayed close to the weapons controls, even though they were on a peace mission. Lee looked at the star charts on his screen. Behind them lay 847 star systems that belonged to humans. Ahead of them was the unknown galaxy, filled with thousands of alien species that humans had never met face to face. "Dr. Park, are you getting any signals?" Lee asked. Dr. Park So-min looked up from her science station. She was the ship's expert on alien life and cultures. Her job was to help them understand whatever they might find out here. "Nothing yet, Captain. But the old records say there should be alien ships in this area. The Nexari people are supposed to control this part of space." Ambassador Choi Ye-jin walked onto the bridge. She was Earth's first real diplomat to aliens in over 2 centuries. The Earth government had chosen her for this historic mission because she was calm and smart. She could speak 12 languages and had studied every piece of alien information that humans had collected. "Any word from Earth?" Lee asked her. "They wish us luck. President Kang said to remember that we represent all of humanity out here." Choi looked nervous but excited. This could change everything between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Lee nodded. For 200 years, human space had been completely isolated. No alien ship had crossed into human territory. No human ship had left to visit the aliens. The border between human space and alien space was like a wall that no one crossed. "Captain," Kim called out suddenly, "I'm picking up ships on the edge of our sensors. 5 vessels, moving fast in our direction." "Battle stations?" Kim asked, his finger hovering over the alert button. "No," Lee said firmly. "We're here to make friends, not fight. Put our weapons on standby, but don't power them up. Send out a peaceful greeting message." Dr. Park worked quickly at her station. "I'm sending the standard peace greeting in Nexari. Language! It says we come in friendship and want to talk." The alien ships came closer. On the main screen, Lee could see them clearly now. They were strange-looking vessels, long and thin like needles, with bright blue lights running along their sides. They moved in perfect formation like birds flying together. "They're slowing down," Kim reported. "Wait, Captain. They're turning around. All 5 ships are retreating." "Retreating?" Lee frowned. "We haven't done anything threatening. Send the message again." Dr. Park sent the peaceful greeting a second time. She tried different frequencies and languages. The alien ships kept moving away from them, getting faster and faster. "This is strange," Ambassador Choi said. "Why would they run from a single human ship? We're clearly not attacking them." "Maybe they're going to get more ships," Kim suggested. "This could be a trap." Dr. Park shook her head. "I don't think so. Look at their flight pattern. They're not moving like they're planning an attack. They're moving like they're scared." "Scared of us?" Lee asked. "But they don't even know us." Hours passed. The alien ships had disappeared completely. The tenacious dawn continued flying deeper into alien space, but they found nothing. No ships, no space stations, no signs of life at all. "Captain," Dr. Park said, looking puzzled. "I'm picking up some kind of broadcast. It's very weak, but I think it's a news transmission from the Nexari. Can you understand it?" "Some of it. My Nexari isn't perfect, but—" She paused, listening carefully to her equipment. "They're talking about us, Captain. They're calling us something that translates to silence bringers, or maybe those who bring the ending." "What does that mean?" Ambassador Choi asked. "I don't know. But they keep mentioning something about stars going dark and species disappearing. And Captain, they're treating this like religious news, like we're some kind of gods or demons." Kim checked his weapons again. "I don't like this. Since when do aliens treat humans like gods?" 3 days later, they finally made contact. A single alien ship approached them, moving very slowly and carefully. It was much smaller than the needle ships they had seen before. "Incoming message," Dr. Park announced. "It's in basic galactic trade language." The message was simple. "Humans of the void, we beg audience. One speaks for the dying Nexari. Please do not silence our words." Lee looked at his crew. "Dying Nexari?" What do they think we're going to do to them? Let me talk to them, Ambassador Choi said. That's what I'm here for. The alien who appeared on their screen was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore simple white robes and kept its head bowed low. Great silence bringers, the alien said in broken human language. This humble one greets you. I am Sub-Commander Veltar of the Nexari Patrol Fleet. We did not know you had returned to the Great Dark. Returned? Ambassador Choi asked gently. We've never been here before. This is humanity's first peaceful visit to your space in many years. The alien's eyes went wide with shock. First visit? But the forbidden texts speak of your kind. The species that ends war by ending those who make war. Are you not the ones who made the Kethmori disappear? Who turned the Zephyrian suns cold? Dr. Park and Ambassador Choi exchanged worried looks. They had never heard of the Kethmori or the Zephyrians. We don't know what you're talking about, Ambassador Choi said. We just want to establish friendly relations between our peoples. Friendly? The alien seemed confused. But you are the final answer. When a species grows too proud, too violent, you come to teach the lesson that ends all lessons. Every child in the galaxy learns this truth. Commander Kim stepped forward. What lesson? What are you talking about? The alien trembled. That there are some lines that must never be crossed, some territories that must never be violated. Your space is sacred ground, forbidden to all. We have patrol fleets whose only job is to make sure no one is foolish enough to enter the silent zone. Silent zone, Lee asked. Your space, great ones. The 800 worlds where no alien has set foot for 200 cycles, where no alien ship has traveled since the Great Teaching ended. Dr. Park was working frantically at her computer. Captain, I'm accessing the Galactic Information Networks. There are records here, lots of records. All about something called the Human Expansion Wars. What do they say? Lee demanded. That's just it, Captain. The records are strange. They talk about dozens of alien species that used to exist but don't anymore. Species that apparently tried to invade human space during our early expansion period. And then they just vanished. Ambassador Choi turned back to the alien on the screen. Sub-Commander Veltar, what happened to these species? The Kethmori and the others? The alien's voice dropped to a whisper. They learned what happens when you threaten human life. They learned that your kind does not fight wars. You end them. Forever. We don't understand, Lee said. Humans aren't warriors. We're explorers, scientists, diplomats. Yes, the alien agreed. That is what makes you so terrifying. You do not seek war, but when war finds you, he shuddered. The galaxy learned to choose peace instead. The screen went dark as the alien ship jumped away, leaving the humans alone with more questions than answers. Dr. Park looked up from her research station, her face pale. Captain, I've found something in Earth's classified archives. Something about the early expansion period that was never taught in schools. What kind of something? Records of first contact wars. Records of what humanity did to species that attacked our colonies. She paused, her voice barely a whisper. Captain, I think we need to call Earth and ask some very serious questions about our history. Lee stared out at the alien stars, wondering what terrible secrets his own species had been hiding from themselves. And in the darkness between the stars, ancient automated systems continued their silent watch, waiting for any sign that someone might be foolish enough to test the boundaries of human space once again. The call to Earth took 3 days to reach the capital. When the answer came back, it was not what Captain Lee Daeho expected. General Yoon Jae-sung will speak with you, the message said. He commanded the 3rd Fleet during the expansion wars. Prepare for a long conversation. Dr. Park So-min had spent those 3 days digging through every database she could access. What she found made her stomach hurt. There were files marked classified forever and reports with most of the text blacked out. But between the hidden words, she could see enough to understand that something terrible had happened during humanity's early expansion into space. When General Yoon appeared on their screen, Lee was surprised. The man was old, maybe 90 years, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He wore a simple shirt, not a military uniform. Behind him, Lee could see a garden with earth flowers blooming in the sunlight. "Captain Lee," the general said without smiling, "I've been waiting 200 years for this call. I knew someday a human ship would cross the border again and the crew would have questions." "General, we've met aliens who seem to think humans are some kind of weapons. They talk about species that disappeared after fighting us. What really happened during the expansion wars?" General Yoon was quiet for a long moment. "What happened was necessary and terrible, and something I hope humanity never has to do again." He touched something on his desk, and files began appearing on the Tenacious Dawn's computer systems. "These are the real records, Captain. The ones we decided the public didn't need to see." Dr. Park opened the first file. It was a report dated 2186, almost exactly 200 years ago. The title made her hands shake. "Final Solution Protocol. Kethmori Empire Termination." "Read it out loud, Doctor," General Yoon said. "My crew needs to understand what their ancestors did." Dr. Park's voice was barely steady as she read. "The Kethmori Empire has been completely neutralized as a military threat. All armed vessels destroyed or confiscated. All weapons manufacturing facilities dismantled. Population relocated to supervised agricultural worlds. Imperial government dissolved. Noble class stripped of titles and resources. Military traditions banned. Children to be educated in Federation values." Commander Kim Tae-woo looked confused. "That doesn't sound like genocide, General. It sounds like reorganization." "Because it wasn't genocide," General Yoon replied. "We learned early that killing everyone just made other aliens angrier. But we also learned that fighting the same enemy twice was a waste of human lives." Ambassador Choi Ye-jin leaned forward. "What do you mean, fighting them twice?" "The first time we fought the Kethmori, we beat them and sent them home with a peace treaty. They waited 10 years, rebuilt their fleet, and attacked our colonies again. Killed 15,000 human civilians, including children." The general's voice became hard as stone. "That's when we learned that some problems require permanent solutions." Dr. Park opened another file. This one was about the Zephyrian Confederacy. The report was even more detailed and much longer. "The Zephyrians were worse," General Yoon continued. "They didn't just attack our military. They targeted our research, stations, our hospitals, our schools. They thought humans were weak because we tried to negotiate first instead of shooting first." Lee read through the Zephyrian files. The aliens had attacked 17 human research stations in one day. They had killed over 30,000 people, including famous scientists and their families. The attack was planned to cause maximum psychological damage to humanity. "What did we do to them?" Lee asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. "We removed their ability to hurt anyone ever again," General Yoon said simply. "We took apart their entire civilization piece by piece. Every warship, every weapon factory, every military academy. We moved their population to worlds where they could farm and fish and raise their children, but they could never build anything larger than a fishing boat again." "For how long?" Ambassador Choi asked. "Forever." The word hung in the air like a threat. Dr. Park found more files. The Drakmori hegemony, the Veltaran Star Kingdom, the Korthax battle clans, 37 different alien species or governments that had tried to fight humanity during the expansion period. All of them had the same result: total military defeat, followed by complete reorganization of their society. "But General," Commander Kim said, "these files say we relocated populations, not killed them. We dismantled governments, not destroyed planets. This isn't the kind of thing that would make the whole galaxy afraid of us." General Yoon smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Commander, what do you think is worse for a proud warrior species? Death in battle, or being turned into farmers under human supervision?" Kim thought about it. I don't understand." "Let me tell you about the Korthax," General Yoon said. "They were the most feared warriors in the galaxy. For 1,000 years, they had never lost a war. Their whole culture was built around honor in battle and death before surrender." He paused. "We beat them in 6 months. Not just beat them, we made it look easy. Then we took away every weapon they had and gave them seeds to plant crops. We told them they could live peaceful lives or they could starve." Dr. Park was starting to understand. They chose to starve? Some of them did. Others lived. But they had to watch their children grow up as farmers instead of warriors. Every day they woke up knowing that humans had taken everything that made them who they were. Ambassador Choi felt sick. That's worse than death for some cultures. Exactly. And word spread. Every alien species in the galaxy heard. The same story over and over. If you fight humans, you don't just lose the war. You lose who you are as a people. Lee looked at the star charts again. So they built their whole civilization around avoiding us. Not just avoiding you, General Yoon corrected. Avoiding war entirely. Captain, do you know how many wars happened in the galaxy before humans expanded into space? No, sir. The galactic databases show an average of 43 active military conflicts per year for the 1,000 years before human expansion. Wars between aliens were constant. The strong attacked the weak. The proud attacked anyone who insulted them. Fighting was just how alien species settled their problems. Dr. Park pulled up the modern galactic conflict database. General, according to current records, there are only 2 active conflicts in the entire galaxy right now, and both of those are border disputes being handled by diplomats. Exactly. The galaxy became peaceful because every species learned the same lesson. There are some costs too high to pay for victory. Commander Kim was studying the military reports. General, these files show that we never started any of these wars. We were always defending ourselves or our colonies. That's correct, Commander. Humans never attacked first. But when someone attacked us, he shrugged. We made sure they could never attack anyone again. Is this why human space is completely isolated? Ambassador Choi asked. Because the aliens are afraid we'll do it again? Partly. But also because we're afraid we'll have to do it again. General Yoon looked tired suddenly. Captain, do you know why I retired to Earth to grow flowers instead of staying in the military? No, sir. Because after 40 years of warfare, I learned something important. Humans are very good at war. Too good. When we fight, we don't just win. We solve the problem so completely that it never comes back. He stood up in his garden, moving like his bones hurt. The aliens are right to fear us. Captain, not because we're evil, but because we're thorough. When humanity decides that someone is a threat, we don't just remove the threat. We remove the possibility of that threat ever existing again. Dr. Park found one more file, buried deeper than all the others. General, there's a report here about something called the final teaching. What is that? General Yoon's face became very serious. That's classified above your level, Doctor. But I'll tell you this much. It's the reason no alien has tested our borders in 200 years. What happened? The Drakmori tried one last attack after we had defeated all the others. They thought if they could destroy Earth itself, they could break human power forever. He paused. They were wrong. What we did to them wasn't relocation or reorganization. It was, educational. Lee felt cold. Educational how? We made sure every species in the galaxy understood exactly what would happen if anyone ever threatened Earth again. The demonstration was comprehensive. The connection ended, leaving the crew of the Tenacious Dawn alone with their new knowledge. Captain, Dr. Park said quietly, I'm finding references to something called the Dead Zone Archives. It seems to be a collection of records that every alien species maintains about what happens to those who cross into human space. What kind? Of records? Video records, audio testimonies, survivor interviews. She looked pale. Captain, I think the entire galaxy has been teaching their children about us for 200 years. We're not just humans to them. We're a cautionary tale. Commander Kim checked his weapons systems again, but this time it felt different. Now he knew what those weapons really meant to the aliens watching them from the darkness. Sir, he said, quietly, what are we going to do with this information? Captain Lee looked out at the alien stars and wondered the same thing. 2 weeks after talking to General Yoon, the Tenacious Dawn received an unexpected message. It came from something called the Galactic Accord, and it was addressed specifically to Ambassador Choi Ye-jin. Honored Human Ambassador, the message began in perfect human language. We request formal diplomatic contact. A representative fleet awaits at coordinates 847.2 by 445.7 by 123.4. We bring no weapons, we carry no soldiers. We come only to speak, Captain. Lee Daeho looked at the coordinates. They were 3 days away from their current position in empty space between star systems. It could be a trap, Commander Kim Tae-woo said, checking his weapons for the 20th time that day. With what? Dr. Park So-min asked from her science station. Every piece of information we've found says the aliens are terrified of us. Why? Would they try to trap the one thing they fear most? Ambassador Choi studied the message carefully. Captain, I think we should go. This might be the breakthrough we came out here to find. 3 days later, they found the alien fleet waiting, exactly where the message had said. But it wasn't what anyone expected. Captain, Dr. Park said with amazement in her voice, I'm counting 2,847 ships out there. A battle fleet? Kim asked, his hand moving toward the weapons controls. No, sir. I'm reading cargo ships, passenger. Vessels, diplomatic transports, and Captain, they're from 2,847 different species. Lee stared at the main screen. The alien fleet was huge, but every ship was clearly peaceful. Most of them had bright lights and colorful decorations. Some had gardens growing on their hulls. Others looked like they were built for art instead of war. They sent representatives from every species in the galaxy, Ambassador Choi said quietly. This isn't just first contact. This is the most important diplomatic meeting in galactic history. A new message came through. Human vessel, this is Prime Architect Veldorian of the Galactic Accord. We request permission to bring one small shuttle to your ship. Our representative comes alone and unarmed. Why not meet on a neutral ship? Lee asked. The answer came back immediately. Because no species in the galaxy has ever been inside a human vessel and returned to tell about it. This is a historic moment for us. An hour later, the alien shuttle docked with their ship. The creature that came aboard was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was tall and graceful, with silver skin that seemed to change color as it moved. It wore robes that looked like they were made from starlight. I am Prime Architect Veldorian, it said in a voice like music. I speak for all the free peoples of the galaxy. We have waited 200 years for this moment. They met in the ship's main conference room. Dr. Park had prepared translation equipment, but Veldorian spoke perfect human language. We learned your language from the historical records, Veldorian explained. Every species studies human culture, human history, human military tactics. It is required education for all political leaders. Required, Ambassador Choi asked, to prevent anyone from making the mistakes of the past. Veldorian activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with human space clearly marked in red. Around human space was an enormous blue area. This is the Accord Zone, Veldorian explained. 2,847 species working together to maintain peace and prevent conflicts that might disturb the humans. Captain Lee studied the map. The blue zone was 10 times larger than human space. You built a galactic government just to avoid us? Not to avoid you. To prevent anyone from forcing you to respond. Dr. Park leaned forward. What do you mean? Veldorian touched the display, and it zoomed in on the border between human space and alien space. Every year, an average of 23 different groups consider testing your borders. Extremist cults that think they can succeed where others failed. Criminal organizations that want to raid your space for advanced technology. Young warrior species that think fighting humans would bring them glory. What happens to them? Commander Kim asked. We stop them before they reach your space. Sometimes through diplomacy, sometimes through economic pressure, sometimes... Veldorian paused. Sometimes through methods you might find familiar. The display changed to show recent incidents. A species called the Groknari had built a fleet to attack human space 5 years ago. The Accord had surrounded their home system and dismantled their entire military in 3 days. You did to them what we did to the Kethmori, Lee realized. We learn from your example. When a species threatens galactic peace, the response must be absolute and final. Ambassador Choi felt a chill. So you're ruling the galaxy through fear, the same way you think we do. No, Veldorian said firmly. We rule through understanding. Fear was the teacher, but wisdom is what we learned. Every species in the Accord has seen what happens when aggression goes unchecked. They choose cooperation because they understand the alternative. Dr. Park pulled up her own files. I've been studying galactic history. Wars between alien species dropped by 90% after humanity's expansion period ended. 94%, Veldorian corrected. And the conflicts that do happen are settled quickly and peacefully. No one wants to set a precedent that might require intervention. Intervention by whom? Lee asked. Us? By whoever has the power to end the conflict permanently. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Commander Kim asked the question they were all thinking. Why are you telling us this? Why reveal how you've organized the galaxy? Veldorian's skin color shifted to something darker, more serious. Because we have a problem, and we need your help to solve it. The holographic display changed again. This time it showed a region of space far from the Accord Zone, beyond the galaxy's edge. 3 months ago, our deep space monitors detected something approaching from the void between galaxies, a fleet of ships unlike anything we have ever seen. They are aggressive. How aggressive? Ambassador Choi asked. They destroyed a Accord scout fleet without any attempt at communication. 47 ships and 12,000 people, gone in minutes. They seem to view all life as something to be eliminated. Dr. Park studied the readings. These ships are huge, and their technology is completely unknown. We call them the Devourers, Veldorian continued. They consume entire star systems, taking everything of value and leaving dead worlds behind. They have destroyed 6 alien civilizations in the Outer Rim. Lee was beginning to understand. And you want humanity's help to fight them? No, Veldorian said. We want to avoid fighting them at all. But if fighting becomes necessary... The alien paused. We want them to know that attacking the galaxy means facing humans. You want to use us as a threat, Commander Kim said. We want to use the truth as a diplomatic tool. The Devourers may not fear the Accord, but perhaps they will. Fear the species that taught the galaxy what absolute victory looks like. Ambassador Choi exchanged looks with Captain Lee. This was far beyond what their mission was supposed to accomplish. What exactly are you asking for? She said. Veldorian touched the display again. New images appeared, showing massive defensive preparations throughout the galaxy. Formal alliance between humanity and the Galactic Accord. Shared technology and intelligence. Coordinated defense against external threats. And in return, full integration into galactic civilization. Access to our technology, our knowledge, our resources. An end to humanity's isolation. Dr. Park was studying the technical readouts. Captain, their technology is incredible. Medical advances, energy systems, space travel methods we've never imagined. But there would be conditions, Veldorian continued. Humans would agree to limit expansion beyond current borders. All new human colonies would be approved by the Accord Council. Human military actions would be subject to galactic oversight. The Bay room went very quiet. Commander Kim was the first to speak. You want to put humanity in a cage. We want to integrate humanity into the galactic community while ensuring that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. What if we refuse? Lee asked. Veldorian's skin shifted to a sad blue color. Then we will face the Devourers alone. And if we fail, they will eventually reach human space. By then, it may be too late for anyone. Ambassador. Choi stood up. Prime Architect, this is not a decision my crew can make. We need to return to Earth and discuss this with our government. Of course. But please remember, the Devourers move closer every day. Time is not our ally. After Veldorian returned to the alien fleet, the crew of the Tenacious Dawn sat in their conference room trying to process what they had learned. They want to make humanity the police force for the entire galaxy, Dr. Park said. They want to make us prisoners with better jail cells, Kim replied. Maybe, Ambassador Choi said thoughtfully. Or maybe they want to give us a chance to be part of something bigger than just human space. Captain Lee looked out at the massive alien fleet. The question is, what do we want to be? The galaxy's nightmare or the galaxy's protector? Maybe, Dr. Park said quietly, we can be both. As the Tenacious Dawn prepared to return to human space with news that would change everything, ancient automated defense systems deep in human space detected the approach of the Devourer fleet. Warning signals that had been silent for 200 years began to wake up. The galaxy was about to learn whether humanity's reputation was deserved. The journey back to human space took longer than expected. Captain Lee Dae-ho had ordered the ship to stop at several locations along the way to gather more information about the galaxy's history. What they found made the crew more uncomfortable with each discovery. At an abandoned space station near the border, Dr. Park So-min uncovered records from something called the Memorial Archive. It was a collection of testimony from every species that had survived encounters with humanity during the expansion wars. "Captain, you need to hear this," she said, playing an audio recording. The voice belonged to something called a Kethmori elder. It spoke in halting galactic standard language. They came like death itself, not with anger, not with hatred, with purpose. They dismantled our empire the way a teacher corrects a student's mistake, calmly, completely, forever. Another recording from a Zephyrian survivor. "We thought we were warriors. We learned we were children playing with toys. They showed us what real war looks like, then took away our ability to play anymore." Commander Kim Tae-woo listened to dozens of these recordings. "They don't sound angry at us," he said, confused. "They sound grateful?" "Some of them are," Dr. Park replied. "Listen to this one." A new voice, speaking perfect human language. "I am Korthak, son of Gorvak, once a battle lord of the Korthaks." Clans. "The humans destroyed my warrior culture and gave me something better. A peaceful life where my children grow old instead of dying in glorious battle. I hate them for this gift, and I thank them for this gift. Both feelings are true." Ambassador Choi Ye-jin studied the psychological profiles that Dr. Park had compiled. It's complex trauma on a species-wide scale. They simultaneously fear us and credit us with creating the peaceful galaxy they now enjoy. "That's not the strangest part," Dr. Park said. "Captain, I found records of 3 species that tried to cross into human space in the last 50 years. They never made it past the border. Our defenses stopped them? No, sir. Other aliens stopped them. The galaxy has been policing itself to keep anyone from triggering a human response." She showed them video records from 30 years ago. A species called the New Drakmori had built a small fleet and declared their intention to restore their ancestors' honor by attacking human space. Before they got within 100 light years of the border, they were surrounded by ships from 40 different Accord species. They didn't destroy the New Drakmori fleet, Dr. Park explained. They just relocated it, broke up the ships, scattered the crews to different worlds, made sure they could never organize again. "They used our methods," Lee realized. "They learned from the best teachers." 2 days later, they received an emergency message from Earth. It was from Captain Oh Min-jun, commander of Deep Space Monitor Station 7. "Captain Lee, we've got a situation out here. You need to see this." Oh Min-jun appeared on their screen, looking tired and worried. Behind him, the crew could see the massive sensor arrays that watched the space beyond human territory. "Captain, something's been bothering me since you started this mission. You've been asking questions about our history, and I've been thinking about our present." "What do you mean?" Lee asked. "My station monitors everything that happens near our borders. Every ship, every signal, every piece of space debris. For 20 years, I've been tracking threats that never materialized." O activated a holographic display showing the area around human space. Red dots appeared in various locations, each marking an incident. "These are potential threats we've detected over the past 2 decades. Species building fleets aimed at human space. Criminal organizations planning raids on our territory. Religious cults that want to test the demons of the void." Lee counted the dots. "There are hundreds of them. 234 separate incidents. And do you know how many of them reached our borders?" "None," Commander Kim said quietly. 0. Every single threat was neutralized before it got within 50 light years of human space. And Captain, we never fired a shot." Ambassador Choi leaned forward. "The aliens stopped them. Every time. Like they have an early warning system specifically designed to prevent anyone from bothering us." Dr. Park was taking notes frantically. "Captain O, do you have records of how these threats were stopped?" That's the interesting part. The methods vary, but they're all familiar. Overwhelming force followed by complete reorganization of the threatening group. No unnecessary killing, but total elimination of their ability to cause future problems. On the screen, Oh Min-jun looked older than his years. Captain Lee, I've been watching the galaxy protect us from itself for 20 years. The question is, what happens when a threat comes that the aliens can't handle? That question was answered 3 hours later. The tenacious Dawn was approaching the edge of human space when their sensors detected something impossible. A single alien ship was crossing the border, moving slowly and broadcasting a distress signal. Captain, it's a Vorthak vessel, Dr. Park reported. Heavy damage, life support failing, one life form aboard. A Vorthak? Ambassador Choi asked. I haven't seen that species in any of our records. That's because they're extinct, Dr. Park said grimly. According to the database, the Vorthak died out over 300 years ago. Lee made a decision that would change everything. Bring them aboard. The creature they rescued was ancient beyond measure. Its body was frail and its movements slow, but its eyes held the weight of centuries. It spoke in a voice like autumn leaves. I am Kilthanor, the last speaker, it said in perfect human language. Final survivor of the Vorthak people. I have traveled far to speak with you before I die. They brought Kilthanor to the medical bay, where Dr. Park's equipment confirmed what the alien had said. It was dying, and had maybe days left to live. Why did you cross into human space? Ambassador Choi asked gently. Didn't you know it was forbidden? Kilthanor made a sound that might have been laughter. Child, I helped write those laws. I was there when your species first emerged from its home system. I watched the galaxy learn to fear you. You were there during the expansion wars? I was there before them. My people were among the first to make contact with humans. We were also among the first to make the mistake of thinking you were weak. Lee sat down beside the alien's bed. What happened? The Vorthak were an old species. We had ruled our section of the galaxy for 10,000 years. When these new creatures called humans started building colonies near our space, we thought they were just another young species, to be guided or dominated. Kilthanor's eyes grew distant. We demanded tribute. When you refused, we attacked your research stations. We thought we were teaching children to respect their elders. What did humanity do? What humanity always does. You defended yourselves. But the way you defended yourselves, the aliens shuddered. 3 human fleets arrived at our home system. Not to destroy it, but to change it forever. Dr. Park was recording everything. They conquered your people? No. They did something. Worse and better. They gave us a choice. What kind of choice? Kilthanor was quiet for a long moment. They said we could either evolve beyond our need to dominate others, or we could cease to exist as a political entity. They would help us become better, or they would ensure we could never hurt anyone again. What did your people choose? We chose pride. We chose to die, rather than be remade into something peaceful. The medical bay was silent, except for the soft beeping of life support equipment. The humans did not kill us, Kilthanor continued. They simply waited. They dismantled our military, our government, our ability to project power beyond our home system. Then they left us alone to decide what to do with our remaining lives. And your people chose extinction? Most of us, yes. Without our empire, without our ability to rule others, we could not see a reason to continue. Over 3 centuries, the Vorthak people simply stopped reproducing, stopped trying, stopped living. Ambassador Choi felt tears in her eyes. That's horrible. Is it? Kilthanor asked. We were a species that had enslaved hundreds of others. We had turned entire star systems into our personal playgrounds. We caused suffering on an industrial scale for 10,000 years. But still, the humans offered us the chance to change, to become something better. We refused because we could not imagine being anything other than conquerors. Perhaps the galaxy is better without us. Commander Kim had been listening quietly. Why are you telling us this? Why risk crossing into human space? Because I learned something in my 300 years of solitude. The humans were right. There are some things worse than death, like being unable to change when change is necessary. Kilthanor struggled to sit up. The Devourers are coming. I've seen them in the void between galaxies. They will test everything the galaxy has learned about peace and cooperation. The Galactic Accord thinks they can handle it, Lee said. Perhaps. But if they cannot, The alien's voice grew weaker. Then the galaxy will need its final teachers to give one last lesson. Final teachers? That's what we called you in the end. The species that teaches the final lesson, that some behaviors cannot be tolerated, no matter the cost of stopping. Them. Kilthanor died peacefully 6 hours later, the last of his species. His final words were a warning. The Devourers do not understand loss. They will not stop until they are stopped. The meeting that would decide the fate of the galaxy took place in the most secure room on Earth. President Kang Mi-young sat at the head of a table surrounded by the most powerful humans alive. Military commanders, scientists, diplomats, and business leaders, all waiting to hear what Captain Lee Dae-ho had discovered in alien space. So, President Kang said after Lee finished his report, the aliens want us to be their police force, but also want to put limits on our expansion and military actions. That's a simplified way to put it. But yes, Ambassador Choi Ye-jin replied. They offer us full access to galactic civilization in exchange for joining their defensive alliance. Fleet Admiral Park Dong-hyun, the Supreme Commander of Human Military Forces, was not impressed. They fear us, so they want to control us, make us dependent on their approval for every action. With respect, Admiral, Dr. Park So-min said, I think they're trying to find a way to live with us without fearing us. The fear is useful, Admiral Park replied coldly. It keeps them peaceful. President Kang studied the reports that Lee's crew had brought back. 2,000 pages of alien testimony, galactic history, and political analysis. Dr. Park, in your professional opinion, are the aliens telling the truth about these devourers? Yes, Madam President. The sensor readings are genuine, and the threat appears to be real. Something is coming from outside the galaxy, and it's destroying everything in its path. And without our help, the Galactic Alliance will fall? Dr. Park hesitated. Unknown. The Galactic Accord has impressive resources and technology. But their entire military philosophy is based on overwhelming force followed by peaceful integration. If the Devourers can't be reasoned with or reformed, then the Accord will have to learn to fight a war of extinction, Admiral Park finished. Something they haven't done in 200 years, while we never stopped preparing for exactly that kind of war. The room was quiet, while everyone considered the implications. There's another factor, Captain Lee said. The aliens aren't just afraid of us. Some of them are grateful. They credit humanity with creating the peaceful galaxy they now enjoy. Grateful slaves are still slaves, Admiral Park said. Are they slaves, or are they citizens of the first truly peaceful galactic civilization in history? Ambassador Choi asked. Admiral, when was the last time humanity had to fight a war? 73 years ago, when the Terran colonies tried to declare independence. And before that? Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. The Martian uprising, 92 years ago. So the last time humanity fought an external enemy was 200 years ago, during the expansion wars. Everything since then has been internal. Conflicts or police actions. President Kang leaned forward. What's your point, Ambassador? My point is that maybe the aliens are right. Maybe the fear-based peace we created is actually working. The galaxy hasn't had a major war in 2 centuries. Species are cooperating instead of fighting. Even humans have been more peaceful. Because we had no one left to fight, Admiral Park protested. Or because we proved that war doesn't pay, Dr. Park said quietly. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humanity should maintain its isolation and independence. Others believed that joining the galactic community was humanity's natural next step. A few suggested that the Devourer threat was an opportunity to remind the galaxy why they had learned to fear humans in the first place. The decision came down to a simple question. What did humanity want to be? I've been thinking about the Vorthak, President Kang said finally. A species that chose extinction rather than change. Are we going to make the same choice? What do you mean? Admiral Park asked. For 200 years, we've defined ourselves by our military superiority. We've been the galaxy's nightmare, the species too dangerous to approach. But what if we could be something more? She stood up and activated a holographic display showing human space and the surrounding galaxy. What if instead of being the species everyone fears, we became the species everyone trusts to do what's necessary? The distinction is meaningless, Admiral Park said. Fear and respect are the same thing when you have enough power. No, Ambassador Choi said firmly. Fear is what makes people avoid you. Respect is what makes them ask for your help. The debate was interrupted by an emergency alert. Commander Oh Min-jun appeared on the main screen from his deep space monitoring station. Madam President, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures moving toward the galactic rim. The Devourer fleet is larger than we thought. How much larger? Admiral Park demanded. Conservative estimate? 50,000 ships, each one is the size of a space station? The room fell silent. Even the Galactic Accord's combined fleets numbered only around 10,000 vessels. Estimated time until they reach inhabited systems? President Kang asked. 6 months until they hit the outer rim colonies, 2 years until they reach the core worlds, 5 years until they reach human space. President Kang turned to her advisors. Comments? We could wait, Admiral Park said. Let the aliens fight them first. See how both sides perform in battle, then decide whether to intervene. And if the aliens lose, Dr. Park asked, then we face a weakened enemy with complete intelligence about their capabilities. And if the aliens win? Admiral Park shrugged. Then there was no threat to begin with. Captain Lee had been quiet through most of the meeting, but now he spoke up. Madam President, with respect, I think we're asking the wrong question. What should we be asking? Not what we can do, but what we should do. The galaxy learned to be peaceful because of us. If we let it burn now, what does that say about the lesson we taught? Ambassador Choi nodded. Captain Lee is right. The aliens organized their entire civilization around the principle that some behaviors cannot be tolerated. Now they're facing an enemy that embodies everything they've learned, to fear. If we abandon them, we prove that our lesson was might makes right, not peace is possible, President Kang finished. The final vote was closer than anyone expected. 7 in favor of joining the Galactic Alliance, 5 in favor of maintaining isolation, 3 abstentions. The motion carries, President Kang announced. We will accept the Galactic Accord's proposal with modifications. What modifications? Admiral Park asked. We will join their defensive alliance and accept limitations on our expansion, but we will not accept oversight of our military decisions during wartime, and we reserve the right to withdraw from the alliance if we feel it no longer serves humanity's interests. 3 months later, the Treaty of Distant Suns was signed in the neutral space between human territory and the Galactic Accord. The ceremony was broadcast throughout the galaxy, watched by trillions of sentient beings. For the first time in 200 years, humans and aliens stood together as allies. The first test of the new alliance came sooner than expected. A Devourer scout fleet emerged from the void and attacked a border system defended by both human and alien forces. The battle lasted 14 minutes. The Devourers had expected to face the same scattered individual resistance they had encountered in the void between galaxies. Instead, they found themselves facing the combined military might of humanity and 2,847 allied species, all working together with deadly efficiency. The Devourer fleet was not just defeated, it was analyzed, understood, and countered so completely that the surviving ships fled back into the void. This is the difference, Captain Lee said to his crew as they watched the aftermath. The aliens learned to fear our methods, but now they're using our methods alongside us. Dr. Park was studying the battle recordings. The Devourers fight like the old galactic powers used to. Individual glory, personal combat, tactical dominance. They don't understand coordinated response. They're about to get an education, Commander Kim said grimly. The main Devourer fleet never reached the galaxy. Faced with reports of their scouts' complete defeat, they turned away from the galactic rim and disappeared back into the void between galaxies. Some said they went to find easier prey. Others believed they went to evolve new strategies. A few thought they simply understood that some lessons are too expensive to learn firsthand. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of the Tenacious Dawn as the first joint human-alien exploration mission launched toward the galactic core. Around them, ships from dozens of species flew in perfect formation, their crews working together with the precision that only came from shared purpose. Dr. Park, he said, what do you think the galaxy will Look like in another 200 years, Dr. Park smiled. Probably peaceful. The aliens learned that war doesn't pay. The Devourers learned that some civilizations can't be conquered. And humans learned that being feared is less useful than being trusted. And if someone else comes from the void, another threat like the Devourers, then they'll learn the same. Lesson everyone else learned. Some lines shouldn't be crossed. Some territories are protected by more than just weapons. They're protected by the unified will of an entire galaxy. Commander Kim checked his weapons systems one last time, but it felt different now. These weren't the weapons of conquerors or tyrants. They were the tools of protectors. Ambassador Choi looked out at the alien stars that no longer seemed alien. Captain, do you think we made the right choice?